Let's get into it. I have no idea what episode number it is. It's 722. I'm positive. It should be.
I think so.
That makes sense. Got the wife here with me.
Hello.
Somebody was like, oh, yeah, man, you should have her on more often. And I'm like, you're telling me. You're telling me. I know. You gotta get her out of her job and onto the podcast. Full time. We got to do it. This episode, what are we doing? We're doing Joe Rogan and a researcher. His name is Brian Mareruscu. Okay? I'm butchering it, but that's his name. And he's talking about extended periods in the DMT state. And of course, you know, that's Joe Rogan's wheelhouse. So we're going to be playing that. Then we're going to be showing you some research into that we found, some articles and things of that nature. So this is very interesting. I know you've never taken DMT.
No.
But I have. And it's something. And if you could go there for hours at a time, that's insane. Absolutely insane.
Do you think that'd be a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it'd be a fantastic thing if you're used to it, right? Like it's fun to be in a certain place when you know the place. But if you've never been there before, you know, imagine like walking around the slums of like Moscow. You'd be terrified.
Why does it have to be a slum?
Because it's DMT. DMT is a slum place.
Okay.
It's not a palace place. It's scary. You know, it's like a dark alley. It's nuts. Anyways, guys, Soul Not For Sale. Keep calm and do not comply. That shirt will be up by the time you see this at IamCoachColin.com. Discount code IamCoachColin, all capital letters, all one word, one L in the name Colin, gets you 10% off the entire store. Let's get to the Joe Rogan clip right now. Thank you.
There were other scholars too who just aren't big fans of the psychedelic hypothesis for any number of reasons. But
also, it's like very unpopular until recently to even suggest anything about psychedelics. I mean, think about all the different people that their careers suffered because they did bring up psychedelics.
That's who I write about in the book. Yeah, it's Professor Ruck,
yeah.
who's 88 years old. He's still at Boston University. He was at Boston University in the late 70s when they unleashed that hypothesis, and it really impacted his career in the 80s and 90s and beyond. So, and
that's, you know, that people are aware of that. They're aware of not just...
I was aware of that, for sure. That's at least part of the reason why I haven't tried psychedelics.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't personally called to that experience.
Well, it's also, you know, from your perspective, if you were a guy who did psychedelics and then you're reporting on psychedelics, like, oh, this is confirmation bias. This guy wants to believe this. But instead, you know, since you haven't, it's probably better for the overall, you know, acceptance of your research that you're looking at it purely from an academic perspective. You're just looking at fact-based, evidence-based, historically based.
And trying to find the data. Like we were talking about. I think my experience is meaningless compared to all that. You know, I managed to avoid it for so many years that when it came time to write the book, it just seemed like it wasn't a priority at all.
Well, I think you should do it eventually because it's so profound you're not going to be able to believe that you never experienced it before. But also one of the most bizarre things about the DMT state in particular, which is something that we know is produced endogenously in the human body, that you've been there before. Like when you get there, you're like, oh, I've been here before.
It seems familiar?
Oh, 100%. Like the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God. It's so mind-blowing, but also so familiar that you think, oh, I've been here before. And I think you're there all the time. I think you probably go there to some extent every night.
When you're dreaming?
Yeah. And we don't know. We don't specifically know, like, we do know because of Rick Strassman's work. Strassman, who wrote DMT, the Spirit Molecule, and did the first FDA-approved studies that they did with IV slow drip DMT experiences. And these people had just wild experiences with entities and realms. And apparently there's some stuff that's going on right now in London. And Graham Hancock told me about this, that there's some really profound work that's being done, that they're doing these studies where they're doing the same sort of technique. They're doing it for like 3 hours. And
at Imperial.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's at Imperial. Yeah.
Do you know more about it? You can tell us.
Yes, it's long. I'm not sure if it's that long. I think it's 30 minutes. But there's another team in Basel in Switzerland that's also experimenting with infused. I think it's like 90 minutes. And interestingly, this is somewhat breaking news. There's a new study happening in the U.S. So the first U.S. research on extended state DMT is happening at UC San Diego, which is really cool. Actually, Jamie, there should be a press release about it, which came out earlier this year. There's a team there being headed by a guy named John Dean, Dr. John Dean. He's talked with Rick, by the way, about his research. And they recently got some funding to be the first U.S. site to host these extended state infusions. And to really trying to get on the route. Are you interested?
Yeah, sign me up. Well, I imagine it will eventually become something like ketamine therapy. You know, one of my friends, Neil Brennan, who's suffered from depression in his life, hilarious comedian, he went to, I guess it's a psychiatrist. I don't know who does these things, but he went to this place where they give you an IV ketamine drip. And he's like, okay, it's probably going to be, you know, just relaxing. He goes, oh, no. You are tripping your balls off in a doctor's office, like hooked up to an IV bag, closing your eyes and experiencing this like full-blown ketamine state, which he said is like profoundly weird and very, very psychedelic. And some people, it helps them alleviate depression. Yeah. But it's also like super abused recreationally, especially around here. There's a lot of people that get prescribed ketamine for depression, so they have like these nasal pumps of ketamine. See people at night. We had someone in the club that went into a K-hole.
No way.
Yeah. Someone in the audience. The husband was like, "She did too much ketamine." His lady's like, at a comedy club, because you're spraying this stuff up your nose, and you know no one's stopping you from doing it 10 times.
That seems irresponsible.
Yeah, that's what people do.
I know, but this is my
drunk.
That's my concern with some of these drugs.
Right. That is a legitimate concern, but also that is a concern with food. You can't tell people, you can't regulate people's food consumption just because people get overweight.
Yeah.
You got to let people figure it out, and you got to give them the information and the tools that they need to make good choices. And the only way you do that is if it's legal and studied and people understand, you know, what is the correct dose, like what is the correct thing, what's the best way to do it that's the most beneficial and least causes the least harm, and treats it with the most respect. Because one of the things about rituals, I think, and these ritualistic settings, is that there's this heightened state of importance and significance of the thing that you're about to embark on. This journey that you're about to go on. And related to this, there was a place that I had initially purchased before I put the mothership at the Ritz, before I bought the Ritz. I was under contract to buy this one building that was owned by a cult. And there's a documentary about the cult. It's called Holy Hell. And it's about this guy who was a hypnotist and also a gay porn star who started a cult in California and then moved it out to Austin. And this guy would do this thing with these people where he would call it the knowing. It's a crazy documentary because, like all cult documentaries, in the beginning, it looks awesome. In the beginning, it's like, oh, they figured it out. This is the solution to what ails us. The modern society where people are disconnected, there's no sense of community. These people are splashing around the water together. They're going on hikes together. They're doing yoga together. They're eating together. They're singing together. God, it looks amazing. Amazing. And he had this thing that he would do, what was called the knowing. And there's videos of him doing it to people. And he would, when these felt like they were ready, and it took forever, some people would be very angry. He's like, "You're not ready," because he was just a con man. But what he did was convince them that when this thing would happen and he would touch them and give them the knowing, that they would have this profound experience where they would connect with God. And it worked. That's what's crazy. When he did it to these people, and obviously these people are deeply committed, right? They're cult members. They've bought in hook, line, sinker, and he's a hypnotist. So he's doing hypnotic therapy on these people, and when he does it to them, you see them like, oh, and they talked about it like it was the happiest moment in their life. And they were talking about it in this documentary in the context of describing how this guy was a con man and about this guy ruined their lives. And they followed him for 2 decades. And now they're lost and 50 years old, just trying to find their way in the world. And they were just young people who were trying to find a way. They still talk about that experience being one of the most impactful, profound moments of their life. And it was bullshit. But was it? It clearly wasn't bullshit. He didn't really have magic powers, but he did have the power of suggestion. He did understand hypnosis. And because they believed in him so much, they really did have this experience.
You know what that reminds me of as he's talking about that that guy?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that's kind of what psychedelics are like, right? Like every time you do psychedelics, you don't exactly get this profound experience. And you kind of sometimes, you know, if that's what you're looking for, you come away like, you know, what the hell? Why didn't it touch me? You know, like if you're in a room filled with people and, you know, like when I had my experience, I had like the classic experience, and that's what the shaman said. They're like, you had the classic, this is the best experience that you could have had. And everybody else was like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
Why didn't I have that? Like,
Like
I was screaming, this person was crying. Like, people are like, why did I have what I had and he got that? It's kind of the same thing.
Interesting.
Where it's like, it's very interesting. And then again, when Joe says, is it BS or not? Sometimes I wonder when I take certain things or when I've taken them, because I don't do that anymore. But, you build yourself up into this moment, and it's like, I wonder if giving it so much reverence and ceremony somehow activates something,
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Like a placebo effect.
Yeah, it could be. You know what that would be good to try? If you did that with somebody and just gave them like tea. And to see
smart.
what happens.
Just really terrible tasting tea.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like give them tea that's like mixed with wormwood. You remember that wormwood stuff I was taking?
Oh yeah, that was gross.
Yeah, right? So you give them that, and then you tell them it's, it's whatever. And they're like, oh. Right? And if they
would happen.
And if they have a profound experience that changes their life, it's like,
then it's good.
Never tell them. I don't know.
Or even if you do, like, it doesn't negate the changes.
Yeah, that as well. But let's get into what else we got here. I also have something from Duncan Trussell, his DMT experience. I wanted to play that really quick because he was talking about that and it just sounded interesting. You were getting a bit of a laugh from it as well. I just want to play that really quick.
Okay.
Just Duncan talking about his experience. Let's get into that real quick.
Had maybe a few steps, just like a cow, And then that was when all the stories you hear about it, like going through some kind of tube or some kind of light tunnel, like a water slide made of light, that's increasingly familiar. That's the wildest part of it. It's like, oh, I know this place. Not like, oh, I've seen this in on like bong stickers, but like, oh yeah, this is that place you go to. You just remember, oh, this place. And then it was like I was in some kind of, I don't know how to put it, a chamber, a technological chamber, some kind of supercomputer, some kind of nucleus that was technological. And it was there was an invitation of like, come deeper in. And you can talk to whatever it is over there. You don't talk, but there's a communication. And I communicated, but my friends, I love my friends. I guess I had some sense in that moment that it would mean complete obliteration or who knows what. And the response that it gave back was, you can always go back there. And that's when I opened my eyes. I'm back totally, and ever since then, that's caused me to revise my thinking on reincarnation. The idea.
Wow. That's
Weird.
Very interesting. But my friends, don't worry about your friends. Come on. But every experience is like that. It's always talking about familiarity. And that's why it's so important with this research that we're going to start talking about is the extended trips, because everybody has this 10-minute, 5-minute experience. And it's never enough time to get a grasp on what's going on.
Yeah.
Because like the second that in Duncan's case, the second that you realize that you can communicate, you already have, and you're not sure about what was said and what the thing looks like, and then the next thing you know, you're out of it. Mm-hmm. But through it all, you were getting like this profound experience out of it. It's so weird. It's such a weird thing.
The first article you sent me said that usually like a DMT trip, if you either like smoke it or consume it in, I don't know, tea or something. Yeah. Usually the trip lasts about 6 minutes.
Yes.
So this extended state DMT that they're trying to accomplish will last 30 minutes.
Yeah. And that's a long time.
Yeah.
For that, it's a long time.
Yeah. Because they're saying too, like, it's the same thing as like with a dream. Like you might only be asleep for a few minutes, but your dream seems a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what this guy was saying
in
the article.
Oh, geez. And which article was that? Was it the one that I have up now or no?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's very... Imagine seeing that thing. See, that's kind of the thought process on what people think they'll see, but it's never like that.
Yeah.
It's never like that. I wish it was.
And the second paragraph in this article.
Oh yeah.
It's describing his experience and like what he saw.
Oh, please go through that a little bit. Just as these.
Yeah. So it says, just as he was getting his bearings, ready to make contact with her, he was sucked away, the hotel lobby an entity, zooming outward down an infinite hallway until he was back to reality, staring at his prosaic furniture. DMT, the molecule coursing through his body, was already losing its effect. It had peaked for around 6 minutes, although his journey felt like hours. The memories of the hotel and the being behind the counter were quickly fading like a dream soon after waking.
Yeah,
that's and he was describing this being as being like, he thought it was a woman at first, but then realized it was just like kind of a purple orb of energy.
Yeah.
And just as he was like trying to talk to her, he got sucked away.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's a very odd experience to have. Although I never get vivid things trying to speak to me, things coming to me and speaking to me. It's kind of just like all overall I'm being spoken to. You know?
Like the universe is speaking to you versus
like
individual things.
Like a baby in a womb. Like something's talking to you, but I never see it, you know, per se. I don't know. It's interesting. Everybody has different experiences with this, but that's the thing. If you could be in there for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, it would be wild.
Yeah.
You know what's also said, before I let you go into whatever you're going to go to, Neil Brennan, he speaks about Neil Brennan, his friend, co-writer of Chappelle's Show. Neil actually takes ketamine, and he says where he goes, it's like empty. And people have said that the DMT realm is filled with these entities because people have been going there for thousands of years. But with this K, there's nothing there because people have only just started going there.
Weird.
So it's like a place where not a lot of people have gone yet.
And you've mentioned before that like the DMT realm, people describe it to be very similarly.
Yeah.
How do they describe it?
Oh, well, I mean, people see the same, like the machine, like Terrence McKenna talks about the machine elves, Joe Rogan talks about the machine elves, Duncan talks about the machine elves. Like so many people see these elves.
Machine elves as in like robotic.
They look
elves?
They look like little
guys from
with their hats.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the Disney ride. Like it's a small world.
Yeah, it's something like that, but more robotic.
Creepy.
More robotic and more like flowing kind of. And everybody describes the same familiarity. Everybody feels very familiar.
Interesting.
Very, very familiar. As soon as it happens, you're like, I've done this hundreds of times. And like they were playing, in my experience, they were playing this Ichiro music. I think it was called Ichiro or Ichirus or something like that. But it's like this old South American or ancient music that they would always play in ayahuasca experiences. And as soon as you start hearing it, you're like, I've known this song my whole life.
Wow.
Like I've known this forever. But you don't. But then at the same time you know where the song's going.
That's crazy.
And it's like, it's weird. It's like being able to sing along with a song that you don't know. It's very weird.
That's a weird feeling.
Right? I had that and I was like, I know what's about to happen in this song. I'm like, did it play this part already? I'm like, no, it's the oddest experience. I love it. After questioning Tim Kennedy and what his motives are on the Joe Rogan Experience, as well as other podcasts, I don't want to get into it, but he's been all over the podcast circuit, spreading the gospel of fear. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it. But I was saying on the podcast, I'm like, I need to relax with my wife and just talk about
DMT.
Yeah, talk about some silly stuff, you know. Something. What else you got?
Something I found really interesting from that same article was that they were exploring the potential for shared experiences in a DMT space. So they wanted to see if like they put two different people in two different rooms, both on like an extended DMT trip.
Oh, wow.
Would they have a similar experience or be able to communicate?
Okay, and what happened?
They haven't done it yet. That's just one of the hypotheses.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that.
I know, crazy, right?
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
But you would, me and Mike, we've had this exact thing. I remember because my buddy, like he's the person that I would do this with, you know, he may be, he's very high up in the business world. I shouldn't even be saying his name, but it's Mike.
Yeah, everybody's a Mike.
Yeah, there's 100 Mikes. There's 1,000,000 Mikes in the world. But I remember one time, the first time I started seeing things move, because that had not been a thing for me. I would kind of just sit there, and it was almost like a phone update. Like, just my brain wasn't doing anything. I would just sit there and feel really good and just feel kind of euphoric. And that would be my trip. Sometimes my eyes would get blurry. That's it. But all of a sudden, one time, out of nowhere, I started seeing things move.
Oh,
like I was looking at this marble thing, and I was looking at it, and I remember I'm like, it's moving, and he goes, yeah.
And he saw the same thing.
And I'm like, so is it like, did you do this? Mm. He's like, no. He's like, what do you mean? And then I got like silent. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, is it moving? He's like, yeah, it's moving. And he even started pointing to the things that were moving. And I'm like, how is it doing that?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. It's like, it just does that. Cause he's used to things moving around. And I'm like, is it actually, or am I just seeing that? He's like, no, it actually is. It was like the weirdest 10
That's
minutes.
so confusing.
Cause I'm like, is it or not? And he's like, yeah, it is. I'm like, is this a computer screen? Because I was just like out of it. And he's like, no, it's part of the wall.
What?
And I'm like, oh my God.
That's so crazy.
And then I stopped.
And you're both seeing it.
Yeah, he was seeing the exact same things moving.
Weird.
He's like, yeah, of course it's moving.
Huh.
He's like, obviously.
Of course it is.
Because he's so used to it. Like, that's just how it works for him. It was the weirdest experience.
Huh.
And I've had that many times. I have a friend, my longtime friend Rob, he always would retell a story that him and someone else were sitting there and they had a full conversation without talking. Like, neither was talking, and they were...
That's weird.
One guy wanted something, and the other guy's like, yeah, you can have that. And he's like, I can have it? Yeah, of course. Go ahead. He's like, but I can't get it. Can you give it to me? And he's like, yeah, sure. And gave it to him. And afterwards, they were like, hold on. Like, did you hear me? Like, were we talking? And they went over the conversation.
How do they know they weren't talking, though? Like, was there somebody else in the room that can...
Well, that part of it, yeah. There was obviously other people in the room, but as soon as...
So they feel like they were talking.
You know, that's the thing, right? That's the thing once you get into these realms and you're doing this stuff, like hanging out with your friends.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's always questionable, but they weren't talking. They were not speaking. They were not speaking at all. Oh, my phone died. They weren't speaking at all, which is a very odd thing.
That's funny.
Yeah. And they both were like, this is the conversation we had. And he's like, yeah. It happens a lot.
Weird.
Happens a lot. So I'd love to see two people in different rooms and what they see.
Yeah. Especially if, like, they know each other.
But here's the thing. Joe Rogan, Terrence McKenna was dead by the time Joe Rogan did DMT for the first time. But they both saw these elves.
True. And
other people have saw the elves. Like, it's a known thing that at a certain point you will see these elves and they'll be running around doing things. Mm-hmm. And then Joe Rogan also talks about, like, a jester that he saw.
A jester?
Yeah, like there was a bunch of jesters and they were like making fun of him.
Oh, weird.
And he was like, I think I take myself too seriously. Because he used to be he used to be a jerk.
Yeah, I could see that.
He was a jerk. When he was like my age, he was a jerk. He was a straight up jerk to people.
He
like on Twitter.
Fear Factor guy.
Yeah,
like,
he was a jerk.
Fighting guy.
He was a jerk.
Interesting.
Andy Dick talks about it when they were on the same TV show. He's like, he would terrorize me. He would call me a drug addict because I was smoking weed.
Oh,
He's like,
God.
he would make fun of me all the time. He would never like leave me alone about it. He was like a jerk.
Huh.
So these jesters were making fun of him, and they were all giving him the finger. There's like a bunch of them. They're all like, ah, and they're giving him the finger, and he's just like, what the? He's like, and then he's like, I take myself too seriously, and then they were all like, like, you understand now.
That's cute.
And ever since then, he stopped taking himself so seriously. Started calling himself a monkey, an ape with thumbs, and he started really not taking himself so seriously, which is great.
It seems like people who do that are generally happier. Like if you don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Because then you're not trying to live up to your ridiculous standard for yourself.
Well, that, and also everything doesn't become a fight.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
You don't have to be angry about everything.
You're constantly, you're constantly combating people.
Yeah.
Everything is a shot at, your manhood or your intelligence or anything, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, when all of that gets kind of relieved, it's a much better life, I would think.
True.
I don't know. What else you got?
The next article.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a cool one. It was talking about like what this kind of research with the extended state DMT could actually do for people. And it was talking about specifically like the comparison between DMT and things like psilocybin and LSD and MDMA.
Yeah.
And DMT gets like out of your system so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better for therapeutic uses.
True.
Because LSD, I think, is like, it's like a 12-hour thing, isn't it?
Yeah. By the time you're done, it could be anywhere from 12 to like 16 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Whereas for DMT, when they do it like an IV, they say once you're removed from the IV, it goes away in about 20 minutes.
Yep. I remember when I had my experience, the guys, the shaman, they were like, in 4 hours, you'll be fine. Because they figured out this. Can I talk about this? I think I can. They figured out this very slow release method. Very slow release. Much longer than 30 minutes. It was 4 hours.
Wow.
Because it was more like ayahuasca. So he was like, 4 hours. 4 hours, you're done. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to like sober up and like, come down and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it literally, music, it was like they came in and you're already like, music off, you're fine.
Wow.
It was the weirdest thing. I was like,
That's crazy.
He's like, you should go downstairs. I was like, okay.
Okay.
I was like, what? I'm like, how can I even get up? I'm like, this is so weird.
But it makes more sense to do that like in a therapeutic way than have people messed up for a day, basically.
Definitely. Especially if you're going into an office, they kind of want you out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, like it works better in like psychology, psychiatry, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be hanging out with your psychologist for hours after.
No.
Drinking orange juice.
They don't want you to do that either.
Drinking orange juice, trying to get it together.
Yeah. And they said they can they're playing with changing the strength and things depending on what people need and the person's tolerance as well.
Yeah.
Because they said it peaks at about 2 minutes or something after infusion. And then it peaks for 20 minutes. And then after that, it starts to decrease because the body starts to be more tolerant of it and start pushing it out.
True.
Even if you're connected to the drip.
Wow.
So they said they can't do it for much longer than that. So that's why they do 30 minutes.
Whoa. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And that's just what they're figuring out now. So eventually, if they keep working at it, they're going to figure out hours.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out how to just have someone in there. But the World War II bad guys, it's said that they would try to have extended periods in that realm because they apparently were really into the occult.
That makes sense.
Like heavily into the occult, which kind of makes sense why they had the symbol that they had because that's like an old Eastern symbol of peace and stuff like that. So yeah, they were really into the occult.
It's a very spiritual symbol.
Yeah, exactly. So they were experimenting with that apparently. And then having conversations with these entities. And then someone, I won't say his name, but he's always right about things. And he's banned from YouTube. He said that that's where they got a lot of their technology. That's how they figured out so much.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's why the scientists from that era, after they were dispersed, those scientists were picked up by everyone.
Oh, because they were doing such crazy stuff that nobody else was doing.
Well, and because they had the connection with those entities. And they went off with Jack Parsons eventually and made NASA.
Interesting.
Because they were very involved in that. And
True.
he was also into the occult.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, right?
So it's all these like occultist scientists who are moving the needle on things.
That's the thing. When you are an occultist, you are basically you're like a weird dark scientist.
Yes.
Because there is a lot of science to it. Like even as Joe was talking about it, I was like, he's kind of like an occultist. Like it's funny how people always thought this was Aleister Crowley. Like when I first started the channel, I'm like, he kind of is into the occult. Like if you're talking if you're talking about entities and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like different realms and things.
Yeah, I guess like in that realm of stuff, you can think of me like that, but I don't think of myself as an occultist. I know a lot about it because I just was interested.
Yeah.
Weird stuff. I was telling someone in the comments just today, I was like, it actually brought me closer to God. Because once you start learning that these things are very real and these entities are very real, it's like, why would you look at God like God's impossible to be real?
True, when you're seeing all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's like...
That's like, of course he could be real.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so there easily could be angels. Easily.
Yeah.
If there's these weird things that are like communicating with you after you do a thing or two, then obviously there could be angels. You know? And then obviously there could be Satan as well.
Yes.
So it makes you a little more diligent in what you do with yourself, how you conduct yourself, what you expose yourself to, you know? What else?
That next article. So most of these studies are being done
out of this one, over this one?
At the Imperial College.
Oh, this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing a lot of research there. And there's some interesting stuff out of that. So they were basically examining how DMT alters brain function using brain imagery from 20 volunteers. So they were just taking brain scans and things. And they found that there is increased brain connectivity during DMT experiences and communication across different areas and systems of the brain.
Oh, yeah?
And notably, the increase was in areas associated with higher level functions like imagination. So it increased powers of imagination in people while they were on this trip.
Oh, while they were on it.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. See, now I'm starting to make a connection between occultists and like technology, because Steve Jobs didn't go through his like full becoming the Steve Jobs everybody knows that came and saved Apple and then created Pixar and did all this stuff.
Yeah.
Until he started doing acid.
There you go.
Like he did it a bunch. He did it at an apple orchard.
The imagination.
And he would just like eat apples and do that.
An apple orchard?
Yeah.
That's why he called it Apple.
Oh, maybe. Maybe. I think it's connecting to Adam and Eve in some way. I think in some way he understood that this was the thing that will make you like the gods. Like what he was working on, what that company would end up doing is the thing that would make humans like gods.
Well, that's why the apple's bitten too.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's like the forbidden fruit.
Huh.
He knew that technology was the forbidden fruit because he never even let his kids use Apple products.
Really?
He didn't let them use anything.
That's crazy.
Right?
It's weird to think like how when he died, like there's so many things that came out since then. Like it feels like he died so recently, but it's not.
No. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's how amazing he was. Because he had very strict, like, and they've broken some of the rules. He was like, never make it bigger than this. Because this is your thumb goes from here to here. That's how big it should be.
Yeah.
And there's like certain things that I'm sure he wouldn't have done, but I don't know. Tim Cook was the best person. Like he was chosen by him.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to run the company. So, and there's never been anyone else. He was a wild man. He had a lot of amazing ideas in his head. A lot of people think like, oh, he just like took things and he was just a good salesman, but he was actually like a big visionary of things.
Yeah.
He was like a huge visionary, because a lot of people don't realize like him and Ford, Henry Ford would do pretty much the same things. Like when Ford wanted a certain engine made, I forget what it was. I want to say some kind of cylinder. I don't know much about engines and stuff. But they were like, you can't make this type of engine. And he's like, I want it and I'll have it. And he left.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't do this. And he's like, I want it and I'll have it. And it was like, you know, maybe he went off and did some occultist stuff.
True.
And then he came back and they were like, we did it. And he's like, okay, good. That's what I thought.
Interesting.
And Steve Jobs would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows? Maybe every single person that's bringing it. Like, imagine what Elon Musk does.
Oh gosh, he's probably so demanding.
He's just drinking big jugs of DMT. We're going to Mars, boys. What?
The Martians told me so.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we were making cars. Yeah, the cars will be there too. We're going. Let's go. We're all going. Me, you, and the elves. Mm-hmm. What elves, sir? That crazy laugh he has. Him and Jeff Bezos
have crazy laughs.
Craziest
like
laughs.
Full on mad scientist laugh.
Hell yeah! That's Jeff Bezos' laugh. I love it.
That's so good.
What else you got going on?
Oh, the guy that Joe was talking to. What's his name again? I forgot.
Brian Murerescu. Butchering it. Sorry at home.
Murerescu. Mm-hmm. So he's done like a lot of research. That's why Joe's talking to him about this, obviously.
Of course.
And part of his research is that it's actually psychedelics and DMT and psychedelic rituals that started Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So what was he saying? Let me look this up again.
It's wild.
Yeah, I know, right?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it says it's traced back to ancient Greece. And then there's an intersection of psychedelics and the rise of Christianity in Greece around that same time.
That makes sense.
So his hypothesis is that the use of psychedelics in ancient Greece influenced early Christianity, and psychedelics played a significant, though unknown, role in Christian sacraments.
That makes sense.
So just in all their like kind of ritual things, which makes sense because even you think about like Roman Catholics like doing the wine and the communion.
Yes,
like that's a very ritualistic thing.
And if it was DMT, that would be enough wine.
Yeah, like one sip.
You just need that little bit.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I'm here.
And then you all sit there together.
Yeah.
And in extremely Catholic churches, the, priest, father, I'm not sure of the actual term,
priest,
doesn't even face the group.
Oh, really?
No, he faces behind him so that everybody's facing Jesus.
Oh, cool.
So it's interesting to think of like, if you picture everybody being high.
Yeah.
And looking at those like, Jesus or stained glass windows or whatever it is.
I've taken you to church. You see how it gets when they're doing when the songs start playing.
Yeah, they get wild.
Some people are on their knees going wild.
Yeah.
But it really does make sense because my mom used to have me always watch these like National Geographics, and it'd be like voodoo and African people and African societies and what they would do and how they'd all be dancing around and summoning things and the things of that nature, dancing around, going crazy, eyes rolling back in the head. Mm-hmm. And as I step into church now and I see people getting like that, I'm like, oh, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Like eventually these people in Africa gave these people over here, whether it was because it's said that it's from Egypt was the first like touchings of Christianity. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but they had a system that was very similar, and then the Romans apparently took that and started doing things with it. Mm-hmm. So there's probably some kind of connection because they're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah,
they're dancing around, they're drinking things, they're getting all like speaking in tongues. Like I know people today in my church that will speak in tongues.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems odd. Like I can see a lot of elements of the occult in religion. Like a lot. A lot.
Well, religion is kind of a cult.
A little bit. Well,
because the only thing that the occult is believing in things that you can't see, right?
Well, and it's basically like hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you don't know about a religion, it kind of is a cult to you.
Yeah.
Like if you know nothing about Islam, which I basically know nothing about Islam, like that's like a cult to me.
Yeah.
Like if someone started teaching me about it, I'd be like, okay, this is how it works. Like I learned about Judaism at a really early age, Mm-hmm. And then I met some people who were like into the Kabbalah and stuff, and I was like, what's that? And it was very weird. And then I learned about chakras and learned about all this different stuff, and I was like, what is all this?
Yeah.
Like, why is there so much going on? I thought everybody was just Jewish because I grew up in a Jewish community. I was like, what are you doing? Why is this person doing this? And, yeah. But I learned to stay away from the people doing Kabbalah. That's for sure. Bad experiences. What else do you have?
That's it.
That's all you have?
Yep.
That's very, very odd. Very odd stuff. Those long trips. Did you look at this one? I didn't send you this one, eh?
No.
Who is Rick Straussman? Is
Rick
that his name?
Strassman.
Who is he?
I don't know. He was mentioned briefly in Joe Rogan's clip as well as one of the articles, but it doesn't say exactly. Let me look him up real quick.
Because I believe he was in this article as well.
He's a psychiatrist, and he wrote a book called DMT, the Spirit Molecule.
Ah, that's who it is. Okay. So I know of this person. So he was the first one to really delve into it. When that book came out, and Joe Rogan was a huge proponent of that book.
Really? Huge
when he was younger. He was the first one to really bring that up and talk about the experiences and stuff. I mean, besides Terence McKenna and so many other people who were like psychonauts, he was one of them. It really makes me think now that we've had this episode, it really makes me think about occultists. Like, is everybody who's deep into psychedelics some kind of occultist? You know?
Yeah.
And like, how deep does it go? Like, are they into other things? Because when I was doing my experiences in the DMT or just in psychedelics in general, you know, the plant medicines in general, there was always a lot of reverence. And like, we would meet up very oddly. Like, we'd always be nighttime, and like, you know, me and my buddy Mike, and then we'd be like stirring up psilocybin. Yeah, we'd be stirring it, and his roommates would come out and we'd be like, "We're not doing anything. Don't worry about it." And then we like pour it in the cups, and we'd be like, "Okay, let's go downstairs." You know,
That's
be
so
hiding out and like come out in the morning, like, you know, like, it is very, like, there was a lot of reverence to that. You could easily see that as like a ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we do it by ourselves, and I don't know. But that's all I ever did. I wasn't into any other rituals unless you count like meditation. But like, I wonder how deep it goes with him. How much does he know? How much does he know? Can you imagine?
I don't know.
Can you imagine he actually is connected to Aleister Crowley? And that's why he does this face?
True. Could be.
Man.
Could be wild.
Oh, man. You know, I always think like when it comes to like the secrets of the world, the things that you don't know, it's like if you knew all of them, it would blow your mind too much.
Yeah, it's too crazy.
Yeah, it'd be too much. It'd be way too much. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know that about Joe. Joe, if I ever meet you, don't tell me. Don't let me in on the secret if it's there.
No.
I just want to know you as the podcaster that I love, the guy that inspired me to do stand-up comedy. That's it. That's it. That's all. I'm good. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
How long have we been here? Oh, it's 42 minutes. Wow. If you have been here this whole time, you're amazing. You're like family. Thank you so much for sitting and talking with us like this. If you haven't liked the episode already, like the episode. And by the time this comes out, you will be able to get your Keep Calm and Do Not Comply sweaters, t-shirts, tank tops, all that good stuff. Again, discount code is I am Coach Colin, all capital letters, all one word, 1 L in the name Colin. And other than that, we are out.
Bye.